Ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not,
Greetings, peasants, it is I, your Empress. And yes, I know it's late November. I wanted to have this episode out sooner, as well as show you how we celebrate Nightmare Night around here, but some pony broke all the broadcast equipment!
I said I was sorry.
And you'll be even more sorry if you don't get back in the pain room! Anyway, getting back on track, there is one episode I want to review before I take my actual break for the holiday. An episode from this past season, actually. That would be The Mean Six, an episode about evil clones, which is a subject that is obviously near and dear to my heart. We begin the episode with Twilight worrying that the group's annual love fest in the forest is running behind schedule. That's because they're being held up by one of the most wicked things in any world, the paparazzi. After causing an identity crisis and taking only the most dignified of pictures, she runs off into the woods to look over her score. I'm sure there's plenty of magazines that'll pay good bits for those pictures, but this isn't just any butt-snapping pony. Yes, Chrysalis has made her glorious return after a season being away. And, bit of an interesting fact, her disguise colors are actually the inverted version of her usual colors. Even I can give credit where it's due. But why has Chrysalis returned, you ask? Well, it turns out that she's jealous of Twilight's harem and wants to make one of her own. And somehow that involves pictures, hair, and trees. And she seems to have a particular fondness for Applejack. I didn't edit that. That actually happened. And for some reason, the brony community has made a big deal about her little prance here.
Which means you will be able to use them too.
Apparently, they're all excited because it's very cute. I think it's very demeaning, and you would never catch me doing anything like that. Who put that up there?! That's it! 2 more weeks in the pain room! Now, personally, when I see things like this...
Of course I haven't forgotten Starlight Glimmer. She stole my hive, turned my subjects against me. So I'll take her friends away while she watches, and then I'll destroy her!
I tend to think things like this.
He's losing his mind. And I'm reaping all the benefits.
But whatever, she uses her magic and creates the titular Mean Six. But we don't even get any time with them before we switch back over to the main cast, where Starlight reveals she's really not up for this whole love fest in the wood thing. Not even Applejack's strange woodsy dress-up game could make her feel better about it. Honestly, she's probably wishing Trixie were there. Then we switch right back over to Chrysalis, where she finds out that harems aren't really all they're cracked up to be.
Listen to your queen. We must retrieve the elements of harmony.
Hunting down some lame elements? This is the worst day ever! No, now it's the worst day ever.
Although, to be honest, I kinda like this version of Fluttershy.
Those elements are mine! Along with this rock! Oh, and that twig!
And as far as rarity goes, I can't really see a difference.
Why didn't you just attack them?
Excuse me?
You were close enough to pull hairs from their manes. Why not just take your revenge then?
You know, Mean Twilight does actually bring up a good point there, but given Chrysalis' track record with this group, I don't blame her.
They've defeated my army. I know better than to strike alone. I need
Friends?
servants.
Huh. Well, she's actually self-aware. Good for her. Also, yes, servants much better than friends. Case in point, Pinky freaking everyone out by being, well, Pinky. And Fluttershy proving she's not as genre savvy if I gave her credit for.
Oh no! You and your sister fell out of your nest and got separated? That's terrible. Here, I'm sure your home isn't too far away.
Yes, sure. Walk away into the woods without tearing your friends. That always works out well. Personally, I like the way Mean Fluttershy handled the situation much better.
You tried to fly out of the nest, you fell and got lost. Hope you like walking.
Of course, she wanders off too, as does Mean Dash, prompting Chrysalis to let Mean Twilight go look for them. And it's here we find out something interesting.
The others are fools, but with me to lead them, there's no reason we can't find the elements and keep the power for ourselves.
Apparently, the part of Mean Twilight in this episode is being played by Starscream. Before she can get too far, though, Pinky jumps her to get the festivities started, as well as pay Twilight back for doing the same thing to her a few Nightmare Nights ago. Oh, and in the process of it all, Pinky ends up telling her all about the elements of harmony, which Mean Twilight takes very well.
Excellent.
And then Fluttershy comes across Mean Rainbow Dash, and they have probably the best exchange in the entire series so far.
Oh, Rainbow Dash, I'm so glad you're here. I was lost.
Bummer. Later.
What just happened?
I told you! One of the best exchanges in the series. Try to keep up. And then the others decide to split up to look for Rainbow and Pinkie Pie, because otherwise we wouldn't really have much of a plot. And somehow Rarity has already found a giant stash of things to hoard. That's not Rarity, Empress. Ah! Who are you? I am the Continuity Minion, Empress. I am here to point out your most egregious mistakes. First of all, don't. Second of all, you understand this is a joke, right? Yes, but this joke is far too painful. That is mean, Rarity. Fine, whatever. Now I see why Chrysalis is so upset. So much so that she's decided to start the party by sticking her horn where the sun don't shine. A prospect that Mean Applejack seems to be into.
The party password is rutabaga.
Is it wrong that I find barely holding on to sanity Chrysalis kind of hot? We then cut to Mean Fluttershy, showing once again she's indeed much better than the original Fluttershy.
I hope you all freeze this winter.
Especially since she didn't notice her double standing right in front of her. In fact, how did none of the animals notice this either? Oh well, at least Rarity found Applejack and Rainbow Dash.
Hey! This is mine. And this as well. Oh, and this is absolutely mine.
And acting her true self as always. Again, that is mean Rarity, Empress. What? Yes, you can clearly see here that real Rarity is with Starlight. I'm getting really sick of you. Yes, Empress. Oh, well, at least it's easy to tell when Mean Applejack shows up.
Here.
Applejack, darling, are you all right? You look a little peaky. And where's your wagon?
And my issues of telling the two Rarities aside, I can't believe that Rarity doesn't see that that's not the real Applejack. Especially since she has the wrong cutie mark there. And not just because it's glaringly obvious, but you can't tell me that Rarity doesn't have intimate knowledge of every inch of Applejack's butt. Especially when it's right in her face like this. And then in yet another jump to somewhere else, we see Twilight lamenting the fact that her love fest seems to be going completely wrong and not even her mare friend wants anything to do with her.
Rainbow Dash, I think something's wrong with Pinky. Not my problem.
And then Pinky stumbles upon Fluttershy doing something completely unbelievable for her, crying in the middle of the woods. Now, what is surprising is that Mean Twilight doesn't have a crying kink, and so wanders off in disgust.
Oh, great. You upset Fluttershy too?
Okay, how did Twilight find them, and then how did she not notice her evil double right in front of her? Again! Is every pony blind in this episode? At least Chrysalis has the good sense to notice things going on around her.
Keep it together. You can do this. You need those imbeciles if your plan is gonna come together.
Your plan?
Which is actually pretty bad since she's nearly insane at this point. So what else is happening around here? Oh, it seems Rarity is in position for the bondage games. Although she doesn't seem very into what Rainbow Dash and Applejack want to do with that shovel, and so she takes it and everything else and runs off. Although she somehow loses all of that when she magically teleports right next to Starlight and Mean Applejack. That is real Rarity, Empress. I'm going to kill you. Anyway, it turns out that mean Applejack does have a crying kink, and so she upsets Starlight enough that she strips off her clothes and runs naked into the woods. Which would be a lot more scandalous if she wasn't already running around naked all the time anyway. And then this happens.
I'm going to make sure that she doesn't break a hoof out there, and then you and I are going to have a serious talk.
Finally! There, that's all of you.
And now I have to take back the credit I gave Chrysalis. That's also at this point I realize that they're abusing the if it's not in frame, it doesn't exist rule worse than the original Halloween movie. Yeah, it's a lot less scary when you realize from her point of view, Laurie just watched Michael walk away. After reality gives Starlight some head-to-butt action, they stumble upon Twilight, Pinky, and Fluttershy. And then they're quickly joined by Applejack and Rainbow Dash, because this is nothing if not the forest of convenience. And of course, they're having a big argument over the things they thought they said to each other, that Twilight ends with one of her usual sappy speeches.
Listen, we know each other really well. The great stuff. And how to get on each other's nerves, too. I wanted a fun trip with my friends. But instead I got carried away with plans and ruined everything. If you want to forget it all and head home, I won't be offended. I just want us to stop fighting.
I get that friendship is magic and all, but seriously, do none of you want to address the things that happened? Apparently not, because they all rather gang jump Fluttershy. Although they don't get too far into it before Twilight reminds them she has all sorts of fun toys at the campsite she set up. Which the Mean Six are in the process of destroying, because if they can't have a love fest, then no pony can. Although, Mean Rarity found something she could have fun with, and they're so caught up in the moment that Mean Twilight just blurts this out.
Once we get the power of the elements, no creature, not even Her Majesty, can tell us what to do. Just follow my lead. Got it?
Yeah, Chrysalis is standing right there. There's no way she shouldn't have been able to hear all of that. But apparently she didn't, because she's genuinely surprised by this.
We need the elements to take out Chrysalis.
How dare you! I created you!
Yeah, see, this is why you create your servants to be genetically programmed to follow your every command. Here, watch. You! I'm going to take away your wings. Next, I'm going to teleport you to the edge of a cliff, and I want you to jump off of it. Yes, Empress. There, see how it's done? Now where were we?
Imbeciles! You ruined everything!
You know, I have to say, I'm genuinely shocked how graphic this show can get from time to time.
Servants always fail you in the end.
Well, she's not entirely wrong. And so, swearing revenge on Starlight yet again, she flies away in the background completely unnoticed by our heroines. Yep, throughout the entire episode, not one of our heroines actually interacted with Chrysalis. I know there are quite a few who are upset with that, but personally I'm more annoyed that none of the clones met the original and started making out. What? I have very specific needs out of my clone stories. That little hiccup aside, I thought it was a rather enjoyable episode, and it's interesting to see Chrysalis' sanity slowly slip away after the loss of her hive. It'll be interesting to see where she is next season, if she even shows up at all. But for now, I'm going to take my leave for the season. We're way past Nightmare Night, and I don't care for all the love and feelings and goodwill that comes with heartswarming. Ugh! But rest assured, you will be seeing me again, when you least suspect it.
And it's so easy when you're evil. This is the life you see. The devil tips his hat to me. I do it all because I'm evil. And I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need.